drugs and alcohol in prison. Now, when I first went to state prison, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't see a lot of people with drugs. Now, a lot of people used to get weed in. Like, that was the thing. Like, people used to hustle weed in all the time and smoke weed. But a little tiny joint like this big, like even a real skinny rolly joint was like, I think like $25. So what you do is you get the little joint in, you buy it from somebody, and then you do what's called a pink slip. So you fill this form out and you send the money out, and that's a pink slip, and the money gets sent out to whoever their family is or whatever in the streets. And that's what a lot of people do. Now, COs used to be trying to watch the pink slips, but so many go out that they can't really tell like where it's going or what's going on. So yeah, there was a lot of weed, a lot of people coming in with weed. I remember one time these Brooklyn dudes try to rob this dude Twist that was getting weed in. So they went in there and tried to rob Twist when he first got the weed in. I guess he went in there with a shank. But Twist had like a whole gang there with him. So there was this dude from Brooklyn named Fu. So Fu thought he was tough. So he had a couple Brooklyn dudes here went in there. They knocked Fu ass out right in front of the dorm. He was laid out in front of the dorm. And there was this other dude, big ass dude, probably 6'5", like 300 pounds. He knocked the other dude out, and the other dude like got up out of there. But they had knives and all that, and still couldn't take his weed. So people used to get robbed for weed. Like if you wasn't tough, or if you ain't had like a crew with you in prison, like they was gonna take your weed. They also used to get tobacco in because you can't have cigarettes in the feds. So I know in the feds they used to bring tobacco in. In the state, when I was in there, you could still get cigarettes. So they didn't care at the time. So people used to get cigarettes in, and it was like nothing. Now, when I went to the feds was a little looser. There was dudes in there that was fucking CO bitches. So they used to have the COs bring them in cartons of cigarettes. I know dudes that was getting cartons of cigarettes. And now one pack of cigarettes sells for $250. A carton, which is 10 packs, sells for $2,000. So if you buy a carton, you can sell each pack for $250, or you can sell singular cigarettes for $20 a pop. So basically off one pack of cigarettes, you make $400 just breaking it down. So you can either break packs down and sell single cigarettes to the people who ain't really got it, or you can sell a whole pack. And people who's addicted to nicotine, like they buy stuff like that. So there was a lot of that. A lot of times, like people was getting in like weed, and I mean, I seen coke, but it was like more rare. Like people wasn't really getting it in. They were selling a lot of alcohol. So people would make like hooch in their cells, or they would make what's called white lightning. Now to make the white lightning, they would put it in like a waste paper basket. They would put the iron in the middle and kind of cook it. And there would be a steam that comes out. Now that steam is pure alcohol. They would run a tube, and it would go through the tube and go into another bag. And then they would sell a bottle of that. I don't drink, so I don't remember how much it was. My homeboy used to sell it. It was like, I think maybe like $30 a bottle or something like that. But make a couple $100 off that, and it's really cheap. You just use fruit, yeast, whatever to make the actual ingredients. Now, one time they got doping, and the one time that they got doping, these white boys that got doping, and I swear to you, it was like the compound looked like a fucking zombie apocalypse. Like I remember these white boys got doping, and the dude that had it, I knew who he was because he asked me like, yo, you fucking, nah, no sir, I don't fuck with none of that shit. So he started asking around. Next thing you know, the whole compound, and they must have got a lot in because the whole compound was walking around looking like zombies. These dudes must have made like at least $20,000-$30,000 because that shit's got to, I don't know what the price was, but I know that shit's got to be expensive. But it was everybody. It was black dudes, white dudes, Spanish dudes. Like everybody was doing dope. And the dudes that had it, they was in this gang called Dirty White Boys, which is like a white boy gang of people who like use drugs, but they don't care. Like they stab motherfuckers. At the time, they was beefing with Aryan Nation. So anybody from Aryan Nation who even tried to come to that prison was getting ran up out there. Like I never even seen one outside of like, they was in a box like hiding from population. Like they wasn't allowed to come to population because they was getting smoked. As soon as they tried to come to population, it was over for them. So they got this in, and like everybody was on dope. So I seen a lot of people get like dope into the prison, coke, like weed a lot. Never seen K2. Now, 80 was telling me something about like they got K2 in like when he was in prison, because he was in prison more recently. But when I was in prison, like K2 wasn't a thing. Like nobody was smoking that shit. Like that wasn't something. But man, it seemed like whatever drug would come through the prison, like whatever you can get in, it would sell. Like people would buy it crazy. And that tells you there's so many people that are addicted in prison. So many people with addictive personalities, so many people that are addicted to drugs. And it tells you how many people were out here in the streets. like actually doing drugs, because anything that comes in, like they was willing to do. And I don't do none of that shit. Like I don't even smoke weed. Like even in the streets, like I smoke weed rarely, but there's no way I would pay $25 for, I don't even have anything in here that's small enough to show you. Yo, them joints was like this big, like literally this big and like that long. Like there couldn't have been more than like a 0.2 of a gram in there. $25. People was paying. I mean, I don't even see how you get high off that shit. Like $25. So the thing is, when you're in prison, it's a depressing environment. So a lot of people in prison, they want to escape the reality of being in prison. So drugs and alcohol and whatever they can get a hold of, or things that they'll put into their bloodstream or put into their body, anything that could get them going. And I remember one kid never did dope before when I was in the feds. And the one kid that never did dope, he did dope in the facility and became a fucking junkie. Like he was doing dope for like 2 weeks straight, started relapsing. He had to go to medical, and then they found out that he was on dope. So he ended up going to the box. I don't know what happened to him after that. But he addicted himself to heroin while he was in prison, which was crazy because, like, you didn't do this on the street. Like, this dude I grew up with, like, he started smoking crack at 35 years old because some bitch got him to smoke crack. Like, if you're this old, like, you're 30 years old, like, you already know what crack and dope and all that. Why the fuck would you do that? But this fucking idiot did it. And he ain't the only one. There's tons and tons of people who do this. But prison is not like people think. Like, you were getting in all these drugs. I don't know how they're getting these phones in. Like, I don't want to know. Or is somebody boofing a phone? Because, I mean, this is a little phone. This is an iPhone 7. Look how little this motherfucker is. Like, I don't see how they're boofing fucking phone. They got to be paying the COs. There got to be a lot of dirty COs. And I'll tell you one thing. When I was in the feds, there was a lot of dirty COs that were bringing stuff in for inmates. But when I was in state prison, that shit was a rarity. I've rarely ever seen that. But now it's like these dudes got phones. I know they're giving iPads now. Like, that's the thing that the jail's giving. Like, you can write home and write letters. I think you got to buy the iPad. It's not an iPad. It's like some bootleg shit. So you buy whatever this touchscreen pad is. You got to pay the jail. So the jail's making money off this type of stuff. You know it's a profitable industry. So this is what they do anyway. But they didn't have none of that like when I was in jail. The thing now is there's cameras. Jail's safer than it used to be. Like, back when I was in prison, if you had a phone and you wasn't like well connected in a gang with a whole set behind you, like, somebody's gonna take that phone, bro. Like, I don't care how tough you are. Like, if you ain't have an army with you, your phone was getting took. And people was getting checked for phone time even, because when I was in prison, you only get X amount of phone minutes a month. I think it was like 300. So dudes will burn through that shit in 1 week, and then they'll try to buy somebody else's phone pin. But if they can't, I seen dudes get extorted for their phone. Like, give me a pin. And they'll take that dude's pin and they'll make the phone calls on that dude number, and they'll get 600 minutes or whatever. A lot of times people bought them, but people also got their phone pins took and stuff like that. I mean, that was just the situation. There was no cameras. They didn't see shit. A lot of shit went on where the COs didn't see it. But even then, in the state prisons, like, they got that shit on wrap. Like, it was rare that people was getting drugs in. Like, they would get weed in and tobacco, but maybe it's just my generation wasn't doing all this Molly and these dudes out here doing coke at 20 years old. Like, that shit wasn't a thing when I was growing up. So I know a lot of people ask me, like, oh, what about prison? Like, what about the drugs? And I didn't see a lot of that. Now, when I went to the feds, there was a good amount of that coming in, especially cigarettes. Like, they could, because once they banned cigarettes in federal prison, I mean, a lot of cigarettes started coming in more and more and more. So people were definitely selling cigarettes and bringing cigarettes in. People were definitely bringing weed in. But I start seeing, like, coke and, like, dope and, like, Molly and shit like that. Like, a lot of drugs that was coming in through the federal system that I don't know if they're just smarter or if their system is just trash. I know the COs are dirty. So a lot of dirty COs in federal prison that are bringing drugs in for inmates, et cetera, et cetera. And they get arrested all the time. Like, the Bureau of Prisons knows this shit. They're always arresting COs. COs are always getting investigated. Like, they know that their COs are dirty. It goes down. Like, it's always happening. Like, I seen dudes go home and live with a CO bitch. Like, and the CO would quit and then go live with some dude that she met in prison. Like, that's some backwards as fuck. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. But yeah, a lot of people in prison were still doing drugs. And a lot of drugs were coming in. A lot of people were getting drunk. Some people were alcoholics. I know a dude used to drink every day. He used to drink that White Lightning, which is like moonshine. He used to drink that every single day, get drunk all the time, do drugs all the time, et cetera, et cetera. And that type of stuff goes on in prison. I mean, it's violent, it's stressful, it's boring. You're in a situation that is just like punishment. You're being punished all the time. And you're not being punished for a day. You're being punished for years and years at a time. So people look for ways to escape from that environment. People look for ways to get out of that. And for a lot of people, that's getting high, like that's getting drunk, that's doing things like that. So yeah, more videos coming. If y'all want me to make videos on anything, just leave some comments down here. I'll check the comments out. Podcast is coming soon. Podcast will probably be in about 2 weeks at the most. Try to set it up for next week, but we're going to say 2 weeks just to be safe, probably the beginning of November. So y'all stay tuned for that. Check in. Make sure y'all comment. Make sure y'all share to YouTube. Get it to 1,000. And be dropping new stuff every single day. So make sure y'all check it out.